Mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check, mic check. Hang on a sec. Seems like there's a pretty good delay on it today, too. Okay, we're on peaceful right now. If I stay here, I'll put it back on hard mode so I can get the gold from the piglin. I did a little bit the other day. It takes for a while. This is the red nether brick, and I started working on this. I haven't figured out what I'm gonna do here yet, but I just basically wanted something, and I'll eventually get it all the way around. But I'm working on that now. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I did this off stream too, where I actually started building the roof for this. I I think my phone just rang, and I let them know. You know, anybody that I'm actually trying to get a hold of, I let. And if they, I'm sorry, if they're not smart enough to understand English, there's just nothing I can do for them. I I can't. I can't physically change things. If I carry it around with me, I'm eventually going to lose it or break it. Uh, so I leave my phone on the charger. Most of the time, I'm in bed. I get up to go to the bathroom. I get up to do this. If I'm not here and I'm not eating, I'm in bed, which is most of the day. And I let them know that, you know, if they ring the phone when I'm not right there, I can't get to it. I cannot get to it before it hangs up, and I let them know that I am unable to get the I'm unable to get the damn voicemail thing to work. So they either got to shoot me a text or they got to shoot me an email or something. Uh, For the gaming gods out there, I really could use to win the lottery because this is the thing, and I wrote people in Washington about it, and the thing is, I do appreciate it. I think they have been trying to help me. I really do. But I kind of told them, don't. I think I'm a lost cause. But I'm like, you really should work on it because I'm already on some state programs. Like I'm on assisted health care. We're getting help with electrical and heating. This is the second year. We just got our thing for heating this year. We are getting help for electrical. And and I have sent so much more information to the federal level. It's just ridiculous. And this is what I told multiple different ones, even some at the state level. I go, this is ridiculous. They've got the same information the state does. They've got more information than the state does, and they haven't fucking acted. And I told him, I go, look, I think I'm a lost cause, but there's a lot of people out there. And I told him, I go, if I was, and I go, the paperwork they sent me, I go, I'm not even sure if I got it. I go, I kept up with it as best I could, but I go, there was just so much paperwork with what's wrong with me. I could not keep up with it. And I told him if I was healthier, I could probably keep up with it better. But I go, if I was healthier, I could probably get a goddamn job. I don't know. I literally don't know. And and hey, for anybody that watches this, seriously, write your congressman, state level, federal level. We need options for and again, I'm not looking for help for me. I'm looking for help with the issue. Get somebody to pass assisted suicide. Because if your health goes bad and you've got people in Washington that, you've got some people that care and they can't get nothing done. You got a lot of people in Washington that just do not give a fuck. They really don't. You got like Republicans in Florida, as long as they can human traffic young girls, they don't give a fuck about it. I mean, we had a guy from my state, Paul Ryan, fucking piece of shit. I went to school. I was like a year or two behind him in high school. He didn't go to my junior high or grade school. But this is a guy that when his daddy died, he got money from the government to help. Him and his mom got money from the government to help. Well, once he got his, he did everything else to make sure they didn't get theirs. Fuck everybody else. That's the way he was. And you take a look at that Clarence Thomas. This is a guy. You take a look at what he did. What he did to Anita Hill when he was getting nominated. This is a guy that if he was. I mean, basically, it was affirmative action all the way at that point. There is no way he would have been nominated if he was a white, rich, old man. More than likely. Definitely wouldn't have got hired if he was a woman for what he did. Or a Democrat. But he got a hold of some of this help. And it got him where he was. He is doing everything in his power at the federal level to make sure that some other black person doesn't get a little bit of a helping hand. He's absolutely making sure of that. And look at the way the Republicans are. You had a school shooting. You had kids massacred. You've got parents buying their kids. I don't know if this is real or not, but I heard it. You got parents that are buying their kids bulletproof backpacks, so they can hide behind it next time the shooting starts. And you take a look at that fucking Justice Kavanaugh. That fucking piece of shit. Him and I think two others, it clearly looks like they perjured themselves when they were going before Congress for their confirmation. If you or I perjured ourselves before Congress, we'd probably be held accountable for it. These people should be removed from that office and they should be held accountable. They won't. Because we got Merrick Garland. He doesn't prosecute Republicans when they break the law. He basically hires it done. He gets somebody and gets him. He won't do it. But when Kavanaugh, he had, and again, I'm not saying this is right, but he basically had a gunman outside his house. And, the Republicans haven't done jack shit to help kids, to make them say, they haven't done shit. And what happens is Kavanaugh wasn't even probably really in danger. And, oh, we got to move heaven and earth. We got to put armed security outside. They should have said, fuck it. His wife can buy him a fucking bulletproof backpack. Just like our kids. Fuck them. That's what they should have done. But no, this is what we do. And it's not right. It's literally not right. I don't want to do this, not on my stream, but my God. But I did. We should have some options. And because think about it this way, like I got a cat and she's getting old and I don't know what's going to happen. I got a suspicion of what's going to eventually happen. I can't do it now because of my foot. And but she keeps pissing outside the litter box, and I've got the whole fucking thing lined with cardboard right now. And when she gets old, if her eyesight's going or her mind is going or her bladder's going, when things get bad for her, I got options. I don't have to do it in a bad way. I've got humanitarian options that I can do. And I can take her somewhere and they can I don't have to be like one of these shitbags that takes your cat or your dog and just puts them out. Lets them fend for themselves. I can take her somewhere and I can have her humanely euthanized. And we got to get out from under the grip of these religious nuts in this country and start having some fucking real options for the fucking real adults in this country. Right now, the cats we got here have better health options as they get older than I do. I literally... it just doesn't seem right. It literally just doesn't seem right. I do have a couple lottery tickets. I gotta check them, but yeah, I'm not kidding. I wish I had the name. I would put them on blast. They're probably not real. It's probably a scam. But I was getting these messages, and this is kind of why I'm in a bad mood today. You need help, and there's like an endless supply of shitbags that want to rip you off. There really is. And you can't really tell. Like I got a call today and they said there was some experimental health care that I might be available for, and I'm like, okay. And then they go, the first thing we need to do, are you in Wisconsin? And I say, yeah. She goes, yeah, we don't service that. So that might be that honest, because they weren't trying to sell me anything. Once they confirmed I was Wisconsin, they hung up. They weren't, and then there was another one. Now this one I consider a scam. And they called up and they said, hey, you're available for some grant money. And they said, we won't be asking you for any information like your social security, bank account, that kind of thing. And I'm like, well, that's that. I'm thinking, well, this sounds legit then. And then the thing they said was, uh, well, one of the questions will be, we're gonna just prep you, and then you got to go answer some questions. And one of the questions are, do you have any health care, Medicaid, Medicare, blah blah blah? And they go, the answer for that is no. And I go, yeah, but I do have health care. And they go, well, yeah, but that's a qualifying question. And I go, yeah. And then he cut me off. And he didn't have I don't know what his accent was, but it was not an American accent. He might have been an American, I don't know, but it was not an American accent. And then the next thing he said, he goes, then when they ask you how much you make, I forget what it was, but he basically told, I don't make anything. I can't work. I'm not getting disability. And he goes, well, yeah, when they ask you how much you make, you have to tell them this. And I go, dude, I go, I don't think I should, but I go, even if I knew for a fact I wouldn't be legally, at fault for this, I go, I'm not lying to get help. I'm literally not going to lie to get help. And, and they go, oh, well, you're not lying. And, but this is a qualifying question. I go, look, and I got kind of pissed at this point. I go, look, I don't know how it is in your country, but I go, in my country, if you say something that isn't true and you know it, you're lying. And I go, I'm not going to lie for this. And I think I did my best to block them. But it's like, you got to be fucking kidding me. Oh, that's not a lie. Just tell them something that isn't true. And no, that's absolutely a fucking lie. And then there was another one. This one I haven't. I'm just gonna kind of ignore this because I really don't know how I qualified for it. And I think it's got to do with that Camp Lejeune thing. But I got a text from them. I signed up for the Publishers Clearinghouse. I got a thing, and they're like, "Hey, sign up. You might win $7,000 a week." And I'm like, you know what? And I don't regret doing it because every now and then I guess maybe they pay that out every now and then. But oh my God, what a fucking the shit that I started getting. There was something else I did, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but my phone has just been getting spammed by these shitbags, texts, calls, emails, and but oh my God, man. But yeah, this one here, they're like, oh, well, get a hold of us and we will help you get your money for water treatment or something like that. And I'm like, well, what the hell? And if I do get a hold of them, I'm going to ask them, I go, okay, well, I'm not going to lie for this. And as far as I know, I haven't been exposed to anything that would qualify. Not for this. So I don't know. I literally don't know. But and then I don't even know if it's a real thing. I tried looking it up, and it's like all I got on Bing was all that Camp Lejeune settlement, but it didn't bring up the law firm's name, so I'm not sure they're a real law firm. There was another one that got a hold of me, and it was a law firm, and it had the guy's name. Well, when I did a search for that phone number, this one here, I'm pretty sure it was a scam too. So that one I blocked because they basically said that yeah, and they actually gave the name that was on the machine when I called back. But they said sometimes when he calls, he's a lawyer, and sometimes when he calls, he's trying to sell you an extended car warranty. And I'm like, okay, we can forget that one. If it was like, and this is the thing, I think I'd kind of want a good one, but if this was like some kind of, ambulance chaser that wanted to sue and get me money for falling and hurting, that I think I might do, as long as they were, if they want to do a pro bono or something like that, I think I'd take that up. But, oh my God, there's just so much shit out there now. But then this one, last night, I got a string of text messages from them, and they were trying to get a hold of me, and It's got to be a scam because these guys were lying really bad. But it was a scam, and the person was texting, and then they said, well, this, that, or the other thing, and I'm like, I told them, I go, because they sounded like a company that, and that's what it. If it wasn't a scam, that if they weren't a scam, that's what it was. But they said that they were going to try and help me get my disability, and I had told them, on that text message, I go, hey, look, I go, I've already got a company that's going to do that. I go, and that's it. I can't have two people working on it. I already got somebody working on it, and I go, they've been doing a really good job, and well, they kept it up, and they kept it up, and well, finally, it was pretty clear they were responding to my text. Regardless of what this guy said. I'm sorry, this guy sounds like a fucking idiot. And I got one because they had mentioned a couple things like they were going to help me get my disability. Well, then the other thing they mentioned, and this was last night, they go, yeah, this is Julie. I just got your file. And I had just sent something in to somebody, so I was thinking, well, maybe that's what it is. And so I told them, I go, hey, if you are with Social Security, I go, I will try and call you tomorrow. So, again, if you're not going to be impersonating Social Security at that point, you should be like, oh no, we're not Social Security. If you continue with your bullshit after that, you're pretending to be a federal agency. I think that's illegal. And what happened was, she mentioned, well, yeah, I'll try and call you tomorrow. You'll get a reminder call 10 minutes ahead of time or something like that. And I'm like, well, okay, something. Well, maybe it is because they were talking about. I'm thinking, well, maybe it's someone from Social Security trying to help me get on other stuff. And oh, bang, they got the stuff I mailed into them. Because it should be getting in there around now. Because I mailed it last week, and if it takes like 6 or 7 days to get there, go through the bullshit and all that, I'm thinking, well, yeah, that might be legit. But just in case, this morning I did call. And it's the number on the email or the letters I got. I got like 2 packets that I had to deal with and mail back, and then I had one where it was just kind of explaining everything. I called the number for that, and I told them, I go, hey, look, I left you a message last week when I got the paperwork. I let you know then that I had just gotten them, and I would, even though it looked like the return date was the 24th or the 26th last month, and I literally got them after the 20th. I want to say I got them on I might be wrong, but I think I got them around the 22nd or the 21st, and it's like, I'm sorry, even if I was healthy, you can't send me something today and expect it to be returned tomorrow. You just can't. I'm sorry. You literally can't. I don't know where the hell. And so I told her, I go, I can't do that. And I told her, I go, even if I was healthy, I go, I can't turn stuff around that fast. But I go, with my health issues, I go, I got to do this on a good day. I can't do this on a day where I'm not feeling good. I go, or you're not gonna want it when you get it back. And but I go, I'll get these filled out hopefully today, and I go, I will try and get them in the mail tomorrow or the next day. Well, I let her know. I go, yeah. I go, I called you last week, and I go, I've been getting a lot of weird phone calls that I don't recognize, and I go, I told you when I called you that I got a broken ankle. If I'm not right at the phone when you call, I cannot get to it in time. I am not even going to try. So I go, if you need to get a hold of me, I go, you can call if you want. And I go, we're just going to keep playing phone tag. But I go, texts and emails are really, really good to get a hold of me. Because I go, I can get them, I can respond to them. I go, sending another letter, that would be fine. I go, giving me a reasonable amount of time to deal with it would be even better. But I go, and I told her about that one. I go, I got somebody, and I go, I finally told him, I go, look, if you're Social Security, I will call you today. And I go, right after they said, oh, good, I'll call you tomorrow and give you a reminder, and then you will get a call from somebody shortly after that. And I go, so I don't know if it's really from you guys or if they're pretending to be Social Security, but I go, that's where I'm at right now. And I think they may have called because I get these calls. I had a whole bunch of them that yesterday were showing up as blocked. And then I've had a couple where when I go to call them back, they tell me that it's a restricted number and I can't call it back. So that might be that. And I don't know. And but I did call, and I told her that I would stay there. I go, I would stay near the phone as long as I could today, or till lunch. And but I go, I will stick with it until lunchtime, or if I have to go to the bathroom. And I got it, and this is the thing. I can't. I'm doing my walking around now. I'm gonna do this with you guys, but I did now probably do an early stream, but I had to get up. I can't lay in bed all day. I got to do stuff with my foot, and because I want this to get better. So I don't know. I'm probably not gonna get with all the bullshit. I'm not kidding you. I've given. And the thing is, this is stuff I've given. I've given them like 10 times what I gave to the state. I'm already on state assistance. And the company that's helping me, they gave like a metric ton more than I did. Something's broken here. Something is absolutely broken with this. And it's like, I'll do what I can, but like right now, like once my foot isn't broken and I'm not as worried about falling, I can maybe carry my phone with me. But the problem I quit carrying a phone when I first started getting sick because the thing is, I can set it down and forget where it is. I can absolutely set it down and forget where it is. So I'm a little worried about because I can't afford to lose that phone. I can't afford to drop it or fall on it and break it. I don't know. I literally don't know. But I'm probably not going to get on help because, if you're someone that's not really that sick and could probably work, then yeah, you can sit around and jump through all this fucking bullshit for the government. I mean, seriously. And this is what I told the president. This is what I told some senators and Congress people that I wrote to. If you're someone that isn't sick and you could probably work, you can go do this shit. This is just not a big deal. But if you're someone that is, then you got this. This is the shit you're dealing with. So I don't know. It is what it is. And I gotta be honest with you. It's like, seriously, don't. If you want to help, don't reach out and ask for them to fix this. Seriously, reach out and ask them to work on humane assisted suicide. Because my health is definitely not getting better. It's not. And I'd at least like the humane options that my fucking cat has. Trying to jump through these hoops, and you got these fucking crooked scammers that are tying up my fucking phone. They're filling up my fucking email. Well, I'm gonna try and change the subject. Anybody that's still sticking around, I appreciate it. Uh, the other day, and I don't know if it's gonna do any good, but it makes me feel better. The other day, I kind of, and if I said this the other day, I can't remember what I talked about. I know I was talking about UFOs, UAPs, and Skinwalker Ranch the other day, but hang on. But I reached out, and I'll go in a little more. If I did do it the other day, I will definitely try to go into a little more detail. And this one here, you basically gotta, God, I think it was the YouTube channel, the Y Files. That's the one. They're gonna do a much better job of it than me, but I'm gonna talk about it. And some of the stuff I'm gonna talk about wasn't part of that. It was stuff that I did years ago. But the Y Files, they got a WHY files, and kind of like the X Files, but the Y Files, but it's WHY, not the letter Y. And they were talking about the face on Mars, and I kind of wanted to set the stage for you here. If you do not know about the face on Mars, that is definitely something. Well, if you're interested in this, that is definitely something to check out. Because what happened was, and I'm kind of giving you the cliff notes. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more to this, but they sent a rover up to Mars. And the rover started, it was in, I believe it landed in or near what they call the Cydonia region on Mars. Don't ask me why, I don't know. But the Cydonia region had some pictures taken, and I want to say this was, I might be wrong. This was, I think, back in the 90s. I might be wrong, but it might have been after 2000, but I think it was in the 90s. But I'm really, at this point, I'm not 100% sure. And what happened was, uh, what happened was, uh, it took some pictures. Well, one of the pictures that NASA ended up releasing, it had a building, and it looked like there was a humanoid face staring up to the sky. So you could, if you took a picture of me laying on the ground looking up, that's what it kind of looked like. But it was just a head. And this was not part of the Y Files. I don't, at least I don't remember them talking about this. There was a guy, and I reached out and I gave it in Cliff Notes version. It might not have made any goddamn sense because I was just trying to do it short. But reached out to Senator Gillibrand and Senator Ruby and said, look, I don't know if this is something you can look at. It might not be part of the normal reach and scope of the committee that they're using to look into UFOs. But I go, if it's at all possible, you should look into this, because I go, the thing is, I go, if you can open this door, you might open other doors. But back, I don't know when this was, there was a scientist, professor something or other, who gave a briefing to NASA. And I'm going from memory from yesterday, because I looked it up to make sure I gave him the wrong guy. I think it's like Richard C. Hoagland. And if you just type in, even if you're not spelling it exact in Google, if you put in Richard C. Hoagland, Mars, Cydonia region, or face on Mars, it should bring him up. He's got his own Wikipedia page, and there's other stuff you'll find linked to him. Well, what happened was, he gave this briefing to Mars, and he lays it out, and I don't know when he did it. And again, I want to say it was late 90s, might have been early 2000. I don't remember. It was one of those two. And what he did was, hang on a second. But what he did was he briefed them, and he explained to them that when you look at that Cydonia region and that face, if you treat that face like it's the Sphinx, mathematically you have what might be the original blueprint for the Sphinx and the Great Pyramids in Egypt. Because there's like a series of triangles there and other buildings. Now they might not be buildings, but they look like pyramids. They look like they're partially covered with sand, and they mathematically match up to what's in Egypt. Meaning, like, if you take a blow up of it, which I believe he did, and because again, he did this for pay-per-view. It was I don't know if it was the actual one he gave NASA or if he just recreated it, but he basically did the same briefing, at least, that he had done for NASA, and he put it on paper, and I bought it. I wish I still had a copy of it, but I bought it. And what happened was, there were people at NASA, some took it seriously, some didn't take it seriously. And so I don't know. So, that's the first detour from the Y files. They were talking about that, okay? And then what happened was, this was on the Y files. Like, they released that photo. It was pretty clear. And then I gotta get some slabs. Hang on a second. And they also said, and I believe this to be true, they have not returned to that Cydonia region. They just have not really reached out again to that Cydonia region. They just haven't. And you got to kind of wonder, well, why haven't they gone back? And, NASA's like, oh, well, there's nothing there. And they're like, and the claims they make are, oh, well, we had another photo, and they brought this up in the Y files. We took another photo, and it really doesn't show that mask. Well, according to them, that's a lie. There was no second photo. That according to the Y files was a lie. They never took another photo. And then the other thing that they have done is they finally did release a photo that shows it. They're trying to prove that, oh, well, that's not it. That's not anything anybody would want. And again, I don't know if any of this is true. I'm a little bit of a skeptic. I'm at least saying, well, I'll throw it out there. But there was a photo expert who took the original photo, and he could not do anything that made the original photo look like the originals until he put like 14 filters on it. Then he was maybe able to make it look shitty enough. So, again, and this is what I told him, it looks like there are people editing the photos. I don't know if it's true or not, but it looks like there are people editing the photos. And that's what we know, suspect, etc., etc. And this is the part that really got me. This really got me. According to them, and again, I don't know, but when you listen to it, it actually made a little sense. They said that when you look at the photos of Mars, it doesn't look real. They go, and they're basically saying that even the landscape on Mars, all the reddish and everything, they said that's been doctored too. And because they've had scientists who've looked at it and they said, look, when you look at Mars's atmosphere, it should still be a blue sky. It would just be more grayish than what ours. It wouldn't be a sharp blue. Again, I don't know if that's true or not, but they're saying they got experts that are saying this. So I don't know. I literally don't know. And I just said, look, I think you guys need to get to the bottom of this. And this is what they were saying, that the landscapes on Mars have been doctored. And they said that if you actually saw what Mars really looked like, it would not look like the red planet. And they said there are parts of it that would look a lot like Earth. And then the other thing they have said is that they went into like, well, hey, maybe real people lived on there. Maybe we, like, and then this is the thing, and this is where it I tried to, and again, in Cliff Note form, I tried to reach out to them and said, well, yeah, because I go, if you look at it, I go, there have been people there are people who have, and I think NASA's one of them. And I go, one of the things they did was they put astronauts in space, and the thing, and this is on the History Channel, I believe. I might be wrong, but I think NASA has done this too. The NASA files, or NASA Unexplained or something like that. It's like on the Science Channel or something like that. But they said that when these astronauts get off the planet and they get out from the Earth gravity, that the body clock, like, you might not be aware of this, but the human body has a clock, and it kind of syncs up with the planet. That's why, some people are night people, some people are morning people. Once you're on the planet, your body, well, what happens is when these astronauts get off our planet, they develop a Martian clock. And maybe it's not Mars, I don't know, but when that happens, their bodies start exhibiting a body clock that is not attuned to Earth, but is actually attuned to Mars's orbit, how it rotates. And don't ask me, I think it's like 24.9 hours or 26.9 hours or something. But that's what happens when they're in space. And if I got the same shirt on as yesterday, I'm sorry. But that is a thing. And then, this was on the History Channel. I can't tell you what show. It might have been Ancient Aliens. But they were bringing in, like, credible scientists to do this. I can't remember the other guy's names. The one I can give you the name, and it was multiple ones, but it was like Travis Taylor from Skinwalker Ranch. And before you try and shit on him and say that he isn't credible, you got to understand, after he left and started working on Skinwalker Ranch, they started discovering this 1.6 gigahertz signal on the ranch. And he didn't say nothing. And the way they're talking now, that's a frequency that is reserved by the government, and it can only be used to communicate with people to and from space. That's what that's reserved for. And so he got worried that maybe they were tripping over something official. So I guess he secretly went and reached out to the Pentagon, and they brought him in when he told them what he wanted to, talk to him about, because he's still got a clearance, and he can't talk to the people at the ranch, even his boss. But he went there and because he did this on the show, and he said, yeah, I went to them, I reached out, because I guess it was kind of in between seasons when it came out. If they thought he was nuts when he came and brought this to him, they wouldn't have hired him to be the chief scientist for the UAP task force, which is what they did. When he came to them with this 1.6 signal, that they after they got done, they're like, hey, would you like to be the chief scientist for the UAP task force? And he did it. And I guess he helped them write that. He helped them write that report to Congress. And then I don't know if they did it to damage him, but then they outed him that he didn't do it. They outed him that he was working for that. So I think they were trying to harm him with either History Channel or Brandon Fugel, would be my guess. I really don't know. Kind of a sleazy thing to do, but that's what they did. And so, the government doesn't think he's nuts, or they wouldn't have given him that top scientific job when he came to him. And this was after he left. This was after he started working for Skinwalker Ranch. Well, and the other thing is, when you find out, this is the other thing, you got to think the government must not be thinking he's nuts, because they spent like millions of dollars with Bigelow investigating that. And I don't know if it's true or not. The story I heard was the government, and I don't know when this was, I don't know if it was pre-Bigelow, post-Bigelow, whatever, the government had sent some government intelligence people there to study the ranch or visit it. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I just find it fascinating that it even might be. But there was a story. I'll get back to the shit in a minute. Hang on. I'm diverging from Mars. But there is a story that after this guy came and visited the ranch, he went back and he went to a military base. I don't know for a debriefing or what, but they said intelligence. I'm thinking it must have been military intelligence, not CIA or whatever. But could be DIA, Defense Intelligence Agent. But he basically went to a base, and I think when I heard the story, they just said base, so maybe it wasn't a military base. Maybe it was just his headquarters. But they said that for a couple weeks, that ranch became Skinwalker. Like that something. It was they talk about that hitchhiker effect, and they say a hitchhiker came back to him, with him, and they were almost going to close the base. It was so bad. And so I don't know. I don't know. Well, anyways, back to Mars. But I reached out to him, and I'm like, well, yeah, it looks like they're doing this, looks like they're doing that. But I said, look, that they're, when your body leaves the Earth, it develops what they see as a Martian clock. Is no longer an Earth clock on your body. Your body is, starting to adjust to having a longer day. And the other thing, and this was brought up on an episode of I think Ancient Aliens, and again, I don't know, but this makes a lot of sense to me. This literally makes a lot of sense to me. You take a look at most animals. As soon as they're born, they're able to get up. They're able to walk around, and follow their mom around. And maybe they can't do it a lot, but they can get it right up and start walking around. When you look at humans, it takes us months. It takes us months to get used to the earth. When we're born, you got to cradle a baby's neck. You got to hold them properly. You got to baby them. You got to take care of them, or their neck will break. They'll die. And that was mentioned too on one of those episodes. I think on the Science Channel too, although I can't tell you what show it was. But I think they've mentioned it there. So, and they said that it really would appear that when humans are born, that maybe we belong to a planet that has a much lower gravity, like maybe Mars. And the other thing they mentioned is like, most other animals can function outside in the sunlight. And they said that, if we get too much sun to our eyes, the eyes get damaged. Well, Mars has less sunlight. The other thing that they brought up is and again, I don't know if any of this is true, but they said when the human body is in a temperature, I want to say like 67 degrees or lower, they only make good cholesterol. That's the body only makes good cholesterol. If it's warmer, they make bad cholesterol, as well as good sometimes. And they said that the average temperature on Mars at the equator, it's that number. I think it's 67, but it's that number. So again, it would be an indication that Mars is cooler and our body is healthier on it. And so there's all this stuff, and then like that trap. And this is the thing I don't know. I literally don't know. But I think I'm just gonna cut some trees. And but Travis, the one time he had made a comment, and whenever he does stuff like this, I just wonder, does he know something we don't? Yeah, and of course he does. There's probably a whole host of shit that he knows that we don't. But he made the comment that when because they were talking about this, and he said, the thing is, when we finally go to Mars, it might not be an expedition, it might be a return. He goes, it's entirely possible. And, and that's what he was getting at. And he was talking about thinking, well, I wonder if there's stuff that he was exposed to with his clearance that he can't talk about. So as long as he phrases it correctly, he can talk about it. Like, if he were to come out and say, oh, well, yeah, when I was on this secret program, this is the way it was. But if he just sits there, if he's on a show and other people, experts, are talking about the possibility, and he goes, well, yeah, hey, maybe when we go to Mars, it'll be a return. Maybe we'll be returning home, and he's just sort of, then that would be okay. I don't think they could get him on that. And see, he did that. He did that recently. It was like a week or two ago. He this was on Skinwalker Ranch, I believe. I don't think it was on when he was on one of the Ancient Aliens episodes, but he was on Skinwalker Ranch, and just out of the blue, I know what it was. It was Beyond Skinwalker, I think, because at the end of the show, when they reported back to the Skinwalker guys, they had found something, and I can't remember what technology, but they discovered something underground. And when he met with those people, the scientist and the journal, or the investigator and the journalist, when he met with them, forgetting here, it looked like a buried radar thing, and he had a name for it. It was a very specific kind, and I want to say I might be wrong, but I think he was referring to that thing, that harpoon. I think is the name of it. But it's there's a lot of people that thought it was going to kill the ozone layer or was going to rebuild the ozone layer, but it was basically like a radar thing. And that's what it looked like to him. He goes, this thing here, and because what it was another ranch that had been owned by Bigelow. And I think he bought Skinwalker first and he bought the other one, and they were talking about it. Well, the technology they used, I don't think existed. I don't think it existed before. And the guy in question that owned the place now, he said that some of the scientists that used to work there, they call him. According to him, the scientists that used to work there, they call him a lot, and they go, well, you're not a scientist, right? And he goes, no. He goes, well, why are they calling you? He goes, there were a lot of people when they were here, I guess, that really thought that there was like a buried spaceship there. And he gets calls occasionally, even to this day, wondering if he stumbled across something. Did you dig something up? Did you find something? And they were talking about that. Well, when Travis saw what looks like, I mean, he's just going by the image. They haven't dug it up, and if they're going to dig it up, they won't be able to do it till next year. But when Travis saw what it was, he goes, I am pretty sure that if Bigelow knew that was there, he wouldn't have sold the ranch. And so I don't know. But he did this thing where he was talking, like when he saw that thing, and he goes, he just made the comment, he goes, well, radar's what brought the Roswell aliens down. That's what made their ship crash. It was radar system. That's how he worded it, give or take. I'm getting it as close to word as I can, but he stated it like matter of factly that, you know, radar's what crashed the Roswell aliens. And there was like a pregnant pause, and he goes, well, that's what the stories are. So again, I don't know. But I'm just wondering, does he know something? Does he know something? And was that from classified and then he had to cover it? Or was he just clarifying? I think he clarified it enough where they can't get him for breaching a security clearance. But there was, again, that pregnant pause. Like, well, was that a clarification or was that a cover? I really don't know. I absolutely don't know on that. Because, like, again, that one, he was just talking, well, yeah, you know, when we go to Mars, it might be us returning home. Maybe we're from Mars, you know, and then, you know, he threw that out. Well, yeah, radar, because I've heard that before. That's a thing that goes back, I would say, to the 80s or the 90s when, and I think they used it. I think it was something they mentioned in, it was an old TV show called Dark Skies, not the movie with Russell where she was protecting her family from like aliens. But it was, I think NBC did it. It was a regular sitcom, and I think it lasted either 1.5 seasons or 2 seasons. And you had, hang on, there we go. And that was the thing I think they did in there, you know, and it because it started out back during the time of Harry Truman, and they basically crashed the Roswell aliens were there telling us that they were here to take over and we needed to surrender, and there were a lot of the military people in TV show. Okay, it's a TV show. A lot of the military people were thinking we needed to surrender, and I think it's J.T. Walsh. He's the Marine colonel that committed suicide. Hey, seriously, contact your congressman and tell them to get some assisted suicide. Do the humane thing for people that have health issues, because it would probably, and let them know, it would probably be easier to get assisted suicide than it would be to get Republicans and others uh, to fix Social Security and help people out that need it. And I don't mind. I don't mind saying that. I think it's honest. I think we got a better shot at getting assisted suicide than actually getting them to fix uh, Social Security. I really firmly think that that would be an easier sell. But yeah, the he's the guy who killed himself when Jack Nicholson was going to basically let those Marines uh, go to jail for following his orders. Well, he basically spoke out, and he was a junior officer, he wasn't a general, and he told Truman, the president, he's like, well, Mr. President, I don't think you should surrender. And he goes, why? He goes, if they were really all this powerful, I'm not sure they'd be asking. And on a certain level, that kind of makes sense. Although, when you listen to the military pilots that have seen stuff, uh, and I think they're all good people. Fravor, I can't remember his name, but there's a Master Chief. I've seen a couple different interviews with him where he I've seen a couple different interviews where he's talking about it, and the one thing he has said, he's like, well, the fact is, what we saw on that ship, he goes, in my opinion, he goes, if they meant us any harm, there's nothing we could do. He goes, there's just literally nothing we could do. But J.T. Walsh's character, he talked Harry Truman into opening fire. And then I don't know if this is matching up. If you do a Google search for the Battle of Los Angeles, that's another one where, and I think that might be the one, but basically it's where the U.S. military opened fire with like artillery and rockets and stuff on a UFO. But that was, I think they did that in the show, that the radar is what damaged these ships, and Travis mentioned it, and then like I said, it might have just been an honest thing, but it also might have been him covering what he said, because maybe he let it slip out, something that was classified, and he had to do a little quick cover on it. And well, anyways, so there was that, and then when it was over, or when Harry Truman was making his decision, the character in the show, he goes, all I'm gonna say is, he goes, if we survive this, he goes, I want a special program to deal with this, and he pointed at J.T. Walsh's character, he goes, and I want him running it. If you're not really sure what I'm talking about, he was the Three Stripes Up and Three Stripes Down guy in Good Morning Vietnam. That's that character. He's a really good actor, absolutely top-notch actor. And so that show basically covered the creation of what is referred to as the MJ-12. That was another thing they did in that. And again, I don't know. I literally don't know. He seems like a credible guy. I don't know. But the Need to Know podcast with JT or uh, something Coulthard. He's basically my last name with a T instead of a D on it. And God, the other guy, can't think of his name, but the American, it's two guys, one's Australian and one's an American. Well, the American guy, it came out that he was one of the producers of that show. He helped create that show, and according to him, I don't know. I really don't know, but according to him, when they were doing that, they were getting reached out. Him and his buddy, there was like some kind of a party they did, and I think it was because that show had gotten picked up or something like that. And somebody showed up and nobody knew him. They found out later there wasn't anybody there, but it was people from the government, and I think they were in plain clothes. They were incognito, but they were basically saying that they wanted to help with that show. They really wanted to help with that show. And they're like, it sounded like they were open minded. Well, if you watch the show, uh, what would happen is the aliens were like parasites. And what they would do is they would inject like something into your mouth, and it would take you over. Not entirely dissimilar from like Stargate SG-1, but they didn't put a Goa'uld in there, but they would shoot out like some tentacles, force their way in, and then part of it would get broken off, and then that piece would grow in you. So it was kind of similar to well, I think it was a show was called Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where they would just spread out and break a piece off in somebody, and then, or maybe they were doing clones, I don't know, but it sounds like he isn't really trying to push this, but it sounds to me like this may be why their show got canceled, because apparently the person that, or whoever was helping them or whatever was helping them, they came to him and they said, well, yeah, that's not real. And again, it kind of looked like it was an indication maybe they were trying to use the TV to spark ideas for people and see how they reacted. So they didn't want like a horror show. They wanted They didn't want a horror show. They wanted they wanted something, they, according to them, they're like, well, that's not real, meaning they wanted it to be real. They wanted it to be more real. And they told them, they go, look, we understand what you're saying, but we need to make a popular show that's going to get ratings and credits. And we're not making a documentary based on what you're telling us is real. And they said this is doing better with audiences than what you're talking about. And so I don't know, but that might be why. And then Dan Aykroyd, he's another one. Dan Aykroyd was apparently doing, I'm going to compare it to like sightings. But Dan Aykroyd, this is a guy, sounds like he put his own money into it. and he was doing this kind of like sightings or something like that. It was one of those shows where, and I can't think of the name of it, but this fairly attractive redhead veteran, former Navy, she was doing this, and it was on CW, and I don't know if it's been picked up for another season or not. But I watched it online. I never knew, and then when Mom was in hospice, I was downstairs and we had the TV and I was flipping channels. Well, and I'm like, oh my God, that's actually on CW. Because I had watched it online, but I can't think of the name of the show. But she basically she basically would cover it, again. It was like a show. It wasn't any set topic. Where like, uh, well, this show is always going to be talking about X, Y, and Z. Where like one week she might be talking about the Montauk kids, the next week she might be talking about, I'm just spitballing. I don't think she did this one. Montauk kids she did. But next week we might be doing the Face on Mars or the government cover up, and she would just like when she got a good lead on something, she'd run with it. And but he was going to do a show like that. Well, and this I don't know. I I don't think Dan Aykroyd would lie. I honestly think Dan Aykroyd could maybe get I think he might be so desperate to get to the truth that he might be misled, and maybe he got it right. I don't know. Jesse Ventura was another one. He had a show, and I would watch it on occasion, but he would do this show, and he'd be like, well, you know how he is. He got that swagger. Well, this is when he was younger, and he's, well, we got to reach out from somebody from Russia, and they're going to get us these secret classified documents that nobody has. And then when you look at it, it might have been real, I don't know, but it looked like a shit show. It really looked like a fucking shit show. So I don't, but he did that. Well, Dan Aykroyd had this thing then. It sounds like he had lined some stuff up. And what happened was he showed up. He had some kind of a studio meeting. It sounded like, I mean, again, I honestly don't think he would lie, but I can say one thing right now. Like, I'm a big Babylon 5 fan, and over the last like 2 years, I have seen this roller coaster of bullshit, and it sounds like he's getting jerked around. Like, oh, well, 1 minute we're going to make a new Babylon 5 reboot, and then we're not. And then, oh, now we're going to make a Babylon 5 reboot, and we're not. And it's been going on that way for at least 2 years. And a lot of it, he even doesn't try to bash anybody. He goes, it sounded like they were going to do it. It sounded like they were writing a script. Because he put this out on Twitter. He's like, hey, look, he goes, if I can get X, Y, and Z done, I think he had to get like a pilot. He had to get so much paperwork done on a script and everything else, and this was well before the strike. And the people with Stargate were doing the same thing. There were one or two guys behind the TV shows, and they kept sounding like, well, maybe we're gonna get this done, because like the one guy, he would put something up, like seventh chevron locked, or the sixth chevron locked, and he made it sound like they were getting ready to maybe do another series, And I gotta be honest with you, I really like Stargate Universe, and I know they're not gonna do it, but I really wish they would continue that. And they could even explain it. It's the kid stayed behind. He put everybody else in suspended animation, and the colonel was kind of thinking that Rush would be the one that would be left behind because they basically had enough. They had enough of those cryopods for everybody but one. One of them did not have a cryogenic sleep chamber. And when the colonel was talking to the kid, that kid had really learned in the 2 seasons because this was pretty much the end of the second season, or if they didn't do a full second season, it was the end of the show. But I think they did 2 full seasons on it, and he told the colonel, he's like, nah, he goes, we're putting him in the sleep chamber. I'm gonna stand. He's like, why? He goes, because I'm smarter than he is. I've got a better chance. He goes, I'm not saying I'm gonna be able to solve it, but I got a better chance at solving it. Because the colonel, I think, was kind of thinking, well, if it can't be solved, then I'll stay out. You know, he was willing to sacrifice himself because there was something else he did. Like when they thought the ship was going to fucking lose, he put the lieutenant in charge, put him on the shuttle. And what they did was they looked for the best and brightest to start a colony. And then when they found out the ship was going to be okay, they had him get back so they could rejoin the crew. But I really would like this because I mean, honest to God, I liked all of them, but that was my favorite one. I kind of liked the nature of it. I really did like the nature of it. No joke. I have really gone off topic. I apologize. Um, I seriously apologize. This is why this is why my streams never work because with everything that's going on I can't focus on them and have a coherent, you know, and it is what it is, nothing to feel mad about. But well, anyways, trying to get back to Mars. Uh, well, yeah, well, you know, anyways, but like with Stargate and that, they you had these people that, you know, oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna like that with Stargate, oh, six chevronth lock, meaning oh, we're real close to having it, and then never happened, never happened. And the last I heard is that one of those two guys he has taken apart in some new sci-fi show, and they showed, I don't know if it has anything to do if it was just stock footage or what, but it showed like a big frickin' spacecraft, like a military one maybe, and they said that guy has gone and joined another sci-fi show. So and they said they go, it really seems like they're not going to be doing Stargate, a new one. And it same sounds like the same thing with the only thing is with with them not doing another Babylon 5, I think that might be a good thing because the guy in question, I gotta hang on. But the in a way, I'm kind of glad they didn't do another Babylon 5. Uh, and I'm not one of these purists. I want to be completely clear here. I'm not one of these purists. Well, if you make it, you have to make it exactly as it was before, or a pox on all your fucking houses and that kind of bullshit. I'm not like that. But here's the thing. And here, this will kind of give you, like, if you look into it, you had if you take a look at like Douglas Adams, because there were people out there, and some of them are good people, some of them are assholes, but there were people out there that they God, I can't think of the guy's name. It's the guy that did the Hunt for Red October movie. And this does, if this does make it up to YouTube, if you know, put him in there. I know who it is. I just can't think of his name right. But it's the guy that did the Red October movies. Well, he was brought in as a creative consultant, and he was brought in as a creative consultant on some of the later movies. And like, see, there was one issue. The military came in. This was, I believe, on the Hunt for Red October, the first movie he did. And the military came in and told him flat out, they go, "You got to make changes." He had the fucking command and control section, like the controls. Like in a car, it would be called the dashboard, but all of that was way too accurate, and they made them make some changes. And I read a book once, and the thing the book was explaining was that if you went over to Russia, there's like stuff you can buy in America. You can go into a store, you can buy stuff like Popular Mechanic, and what they will do is they'll sometimes have classified Russian stuff in there, or other magazines, and it'll be in there. It'll be fine, because he was basically saying, and it was kind of the same thing like God, he was basically talking about trying to do like what the guy who writes for Hunt for October, basically trying to figure things out. When you're trying to figure out what the government or what the military is doing, he was explaining this because he's like, I can go to Russia and find more out about American hardware in the military than I can find here. And he goes, and then when you go over to Russia, what happens is you can go into like a store here and pick up stuff, and it'll have Russian classified stuff because the American government doesn't care. And if you go over to Russia, you can go into a bookstore. Now, it might be in Russian. You might not be able to read it if you don't speak the language. But you can go into a Russian bookstore and you can actually get American secrets, and they're right on the shelf in a magazine. Their version of Popular Mechanics, because again, Russia don't give a shit. It's a secret for America, but it's not a secret for Russia. And so I don't know. And but when they did some of the later movies, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know. Like in a case like that, and I kind of said the same thing in a post that J. Michael Straczynski had put up. I go, look, here's my problems with it. It sounds like you're doing, but I will watch it and I will judge it based on how good it is. I'll either like it or I won't like it. But the way he was talking, and to me, sometimes you get those people, and sometimes it's artists, and sometimes it's people that get too successful, and they just don't have a sense of reality anymore. They've kind of stepped away from, because they've gotten used to success. They have access to money that you or I don't, and they're not really balanced anymore. And he threw this shit up, and I'm just like, oh my god, somebody. So, and again, I don't know what it is, but it's like, yeah, he needs a come to Jesus moment. Somebody needs to pull him off to the side and just get him grounded in reality again. But the thing he basically said, he's like, well, you know, if I look at a stream that I walked in, and I'm paraphrasing, I can't remember exactly what but it was along these lines. He's like, when I walked through a stream 20 years ago, when I first did Babylon 5, I will never be able to walk through that stream again. Things have changed. And that was his whole thing. So he was like, well, I'll redo Babylon 5, but I'm going to make changes. And really, and that's what I told him. I go, look, I don't want to shit on it because I don't know what you're going to do. Uh, you know, and I go, and if you want to block me over this, that's completely fine. I don't know that I blame you. because I'm just a nobody. But I go, if you make changes, I go, that's completely fine. I go, the thing I had always hoped if you redid it was that you would try to make the story you would have made if, God, it's the guy who played Sheridan. My understanding is he had to make changes at the end of season one because Sheridan got, or Sinclair got sick. The actor who played him got like really, really sick. And if you don't know this, like season three or season two or season three, when they brought him back, he was sick, and I think he had mental health issues and some other stuff. But they brought him back. He sucked it up, and he came in and he helped out to finish that. But that show would have looked a whole lot different, I think, if Sinclair had not, if the actor had not gotten sick, and I can't remember what his name was. He's dead now. And that's what I had always, like, hey, and the other thing is that show got fucked up because every like, especially the last, I think, two seasons, they were under the impression they were going to get canceled. So like when you see I don't know, it's season three or season four, there was one of those where they ended it, and it's that thing where they basically, like, they looked through 1,000 years and they went back. Oh, well, we had the black days, and we have to fucking find this, and we have to do that. And then at the end, it was a human who was now more like a Vorlon saying, yeah, the last 1,000 years are over. We're leaving the cradle, and like Earth's sun was dying out and all that. And that's how they ended it. Well, they didn't know. I don't think they knew until after that had been shot that the show was getting canceled. So they rushed to finish it. They got it done. And then they got that. They had that one thing where they're, oh, well, we'll show you how it's going to go. And then I don't watch it all the time. That fifth season, that was like the weakest fucking season for me. It really was, because it was an afterthought. They never intended on doing it. They basically shut it down. They set it up to be the end at season four. And that's another thing. I didn't mention it to him, but that was another thing. I'm like, well, man, if they're ever going to redo this, I'd really like to see him, because this thing a lot of people don't know. Like when the pilot launched, and before they started filming the show, he might not have done it all until after the pilot was shot and the show had been approved. But he basically wrote like a 5-year script, or at least he had an outline. He had an idea where that show was going to, like, he had it from start to finish. He had it all planned out. He had it all mapped out. He was going to, and that is rare. And another thing, like, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but when you look at it, he wrote, hang on one second. When he wrote that show, he wrote significantly more of that show. He wrote most of it. I don't think he wrote all of it, but he wrote most of it. And I'm not sure there's any other TV show where one person wrote that much of the script. And I always envisioned that if they were going to do it, that he would get to basically, even if he was going to make some changes, it's like, hey, you're a better actor now, you're a better producer now, or not an actor, you're a better producer now, you're a better writer now. By all means, make it better. Not an issue. And the thing is, when you look at those people with the Hunt for Red October, he came in and he was telling the studios or the director or producers, hey, this is what we need to do. And the thing is, I want to give you an example. There was, I actually studied Bruce when I was healthy. I'm not saying I was very good at it, but I enjoyed it. I like the philosophy more. I like the philosophy more than the art. I like the art too, but I'm just not that guy. But I really did like the art. I liked doing it. But it was Jeet Kune Do, Jun Fan. I studied that along with some other stuff, Muay Thai, boxing, some other stuff. And when they were making the movie Enter the Dragon, it was the final scene. And unlike a lot of people, Bruce Lee, I guess, could map it all out in his head for the fight scenes. And they were talking about that final scene where he was fighting what's his nuts in the fucking mirrored room and that. And somebody was telling him what to do. They're like, well, yeah, you know, you're going to be here and you're going to throw this side kick and he's going to fucking land on the spear over there. And then, this was just them telling Bruce. He didn't walk. It was all in his head. And when they told him, he said, I can't do that because where you're putting me, I will be like 8 or 10 feet away from the guy. And they go, yeah, but in the mirror, you'll look like you're kicking him. And then as soon as they told him that, then he realized, yeah, they're right. You know, but it was one of those things. Well, this is the way I always looked at it. And it was, I can't tell you which one of the, might have been paid. It was one of the ones I think Harrison Ford did. But they brought him in, and he was a creative consultant. He was not the overlord. He was not, you know, they'd already bought the rights to this, and they brought him in as a creative consultant. Well, he was like, well, you can't do this and you can't do that. Well, my opinion, it was like that Bruce Lee moment where this guy's like, well, I can't do that because I'll be 10 feet away from the guy when I kick, or whatever it was. But he goes, I'll be like 10 feet away from the guy when I kick him. And the producers, the directors were telling him, you know, hey, look, you know how to write books. You can put anything you imagine in a book. You absolutely can. We're making a movie. You know, if you're an author and you're writing a book, if you need 800 pages, you can get 800 pages. If you need 2,000 pages, you can get 2,000. All you got to do is make it interesting. They got to fit this fucking thing in about 2 hours or less. That's the, I'm kind of stretching out my foot. Hang on. And, but they, you know, they're like, you know, when you're making a movie, you got to fit that into the window that the studios, now they've done it a lot since where they make these 2.5, 3.5 hour movies. And if it's a good enough movie, can't do it with everything, but if it's a Star Wars movie, you can do it. If it's a Lord of the Rings movie, you can do it. Rocky movie, maybe not so much, but you know, maybe not. But you know, so they were letting him know, well, you know, hey, we're trying to make a movie for the studio. We're trying to make a movie that'll sell tickets, and you're not an expert on that. Well, there were a lot of his fans out there that were just, well, I'm not going to go see it because they didn't do what he told them, and it's I'm not going to be that way. I just won't. Like and I'll be honest with you, I was actually looking forward to it. But when they created a woman Doctor Who, you had, I mean, the fucking incels unite. Holy shit. And my initial thing was, I'm going to wait and see how it is. If it's good, I'll watch it. If it's shit, I won't watch it. And the only thing that pisses me off, this is the only thing that bothered me, is when you get these Doctor Who actors that come in and just do like 1 or 2 seasons and move on. And they've sort of fixed it now. They've kind of explained away that the Doctor was special and he doesn't have really 12 regenerations. And I would say that was a marketing decision so that they could keep the franchise going. I firmly do. But it's not completely out of canon because if you go back to Tom Baker, I think it was one called The Brain of Morbius, and he got into this mental tug of war with Morbius. And it was an old Time Lord thing. And what you do is you put your mind up against the other Time Lord, and you try to, and in the machine you force them back through their regenerations. Well, the problem you had was they got to William Hartnell's character, and he kept going back, and they never explained it. Well, when they finally did that Children of Time or whatever it was, now they explained it. And again, I don't know that they did it on purpose. It's entirely possible whoever wrote it didn't know about it. I got a feeling that somebody in charge said, hey, I don't care what you do. Find a way to give the doctor more than 12 or 13 regenerations because we're not canceling the show. We're making a shitload of money and we're gonna find a way to fix this damn thing. And but no, I'm in a better mood. I want to apologize because I really don't try and do that in the stream. But I'm not kidding. If you want to do something, write your Congress people, write your governors, write the president, and let them know that you know we should at least have the same humane options that we give our pets. I'm gonna probably be doing this a lot on my streams because if you've got health problems and you've got a case where you've got family members that are trying to steal stuff, and I really don't want to harp on this, but it's like I've read it. I've absolutely read it, and it states, if we don't abandon the house, it's here for us. It states that the minute my mom's, and we're not the ones that drew it up. My sister did that all by herself. I think my oldest brother was involved for it. And I don't know if the lawyer told her what was going on and she just wanted to steal this, or if she didn't fucking listen to him and didn't understand it. I don't know. I literally don't know. But it states right in there that if we don't abandon the property, we're supposed to be able to live here. And when they sold all that stuff for the auction, all that money's supposed to be in there to pay for stuff. And we got that letter from the lawyer that the money that was at the bank and we're supposed to get our hands on that. That's not supposed to be sucked in illegally to this. Because again, even the sheriff deputy, and this is the part that just drives me nuts, Rock County Sheriff's Department, when the guy was here, I would need to get a copy of his body cam for sure. But from what I remember, he basically flat out said, well, yeah, I kind of let your sister know that, the will doesn't cover money at the brokerage house. The will doesn't cover money at the bank. And you can't just take that money and put it into the trust here, because I showed him the letter that stated from my mom's lawyer that, that money's there for us. We can just make our, why would they send me a letter? Why would they send my brother a letter? That money there is yours. You can just contact them and make arrangements to pick it up. And that was Old National Bank, and that was, I think, Edward Jones. And again, I don't know, because again, when my brother talked to that guy at Edward Jones, the guy told him, he's like, look, I'd really like to talk to you, but I can't talk to you unless you're. He didn't say, oh, you're not a beneficiary. He just, something seemed weird. And he's like, I can't really talk to you about it. Well, the sheriff deputy was here. He told my sister, like, yeah, you can't take that money from the banks and stuff and put it into the trust because you might want to talk to your lawyers before you do something. Well, yeah, look behind you. Before you cross that line, hey, sheriff, maybe you should have told her to look behind her. She's already done it. And the part that gets me is it's just a shame there wasn't somebody with a gun, a badge, and the legal fucking authority to investigate that and fucking do something. That was the part that just drove me fucking nuts on it. And I don't know. I don't want to get. That's just gonna put me in a black hole. I really. But well, anyways, but yeah, but he had this whole thing, where, and I just made the comment about this Babylon 5, and I'll try to get back to Mars. I'm sorry, but I was actually really, I was actually really looking forward because it sounded like it was going to be on regular TV, so I'd definitely be able to watch it. I was really looking forward to that. I was kind of bummed out, and but no, hang on. Yeah, we'll go down this side first. But he made that comment. Well, I can't walk through the same stream again. It's real this artsy fartsy shit, and I'm like, yeah, he's an artist, but this really, it just came off to me like, well, he's kind of out of touch with reality, and and I just made the comment that I go, hey, look, I go, I'm not going to be one of these ones that say you got to make it exactly the way it was. And I go, there's a lot of them out there. If you don't make it exactly like it was, they're probably going to be a little disappointed. I go, I'm going to watch it and judge it based on how well I like the new one. And I go, and I got to tell you, I don't know about you, but I go, I grew up, I was a big Douglas Adams fan. He was the guy that wrote the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy trilogy. And this should give you a sense of his sense of humor. It was the Hitchhiker Guide to the Galaxy trilogy. And I think he was calling that, I don't know if he started calling that on the second book or the third book. But what was funny is it was still called the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy trilogy with the fourth book, the fifth book, and so on. And I mentioned, I go, I was a big fan of his. I really was. And I go, every time he re-released The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, he made changes. Like, when he did the TV show, and it was like a 6-episode one, they did like a season of it. I think somebody's got it. Might be Roku, I don't know, but somebody's got it. I think you can watch it for free. Maybe not. I know, like, when my mom was still alive, I watched. I fell asleep. I put it on and fell asleep, and I watched it a couple times when I went to go to sleep. But it was somewhere where you could watch it for free, I think. And but when he did the book, it was one way. When he did the 6-episode TV show, he kind of rewrote it a little bit. He made some tweaks. When he did the radio show, and I think there was like 10 or 12 episodes of that, but he did a radio show for the BBC. He tweaked it then. And there was stuff in it that was not in it. So it was like he, his thing though, but it was still basically the same story. He just tweaked some of the details. Like you still had, Arthur Dent and Ford Prefect, Ford rescuing the last surviving member of Earth. You still had Zaphod Beaverbrecht. You still had the Heart of Gold. You still had, God, I can't remember that really hot chick that Zaphod, he rescued a human from Earth, Zaphod. I think it was Trillion or something like that. And it's still the basic story was there. Well, it sounded like he was just going to basically create a brand new story, slap Babylon 5 on it. And I told him, I go, if you basically tell the same story with different details, I go, you'll probably do okay. Maybe not with everybody, but I go, if you are going to do, if you're going to do what Arthur, or if you're going to do what, God, I can't think of the author's name now. Douglas Adams. If you're going to do what he did and you're going to write a story and you're going to basically write, Dirk Gently's Detective Agency, which is another book he did. That one there, not as many people know it. I highly recommend it. And I think it's the second book, but I might be wrong. But it's this guy, he basically solves mysteries holistically. Like what he'll do is when he gets the case, he'll just randomly do something for no reason and wait until a clue to the, something that is going to solve the case appears. Like he'll go down the road and he'll drive until he notices something, and then as soon as he notices something that might be related to the case, well then he'll start to move in on the case. Well, there's one of them he did, and I think it was the second Dirk Gently book. But what happened was there was some corporation that was like stealing the Norse gods' powers. And the story, I'm gonna try and keep a straight face. They put Odin in a nursing home, and he really liked the linen sheets. They took really good care of him, And so in order for him to keep getting the nursing home, he was basically just turning over. Well, Thor was trying to stop it. Well, what they did was every time Thor tried to activate his powers or do anything that would allow him to get back to Norway, so he could then go up to where the gods were and he could basically do something about it, his powers would screw up. Like, one of them, he was trying to fly there with his little enchanted hammer, and they ended up sending I think it was a British pilot. They ended up sending a UK fighter pilot after him, and the guy was shooting at him and that. Well, he tried to flex with his hammer and use his powers. Well, he ended up turning that fighter jet into a iron-beaked hawk who followed him around and attacked him. Well, at a certain point, he decided to take a flight. And I don't know if this was just the way things were or if somebody put her up to it, but they basically wouldn't let him fly because he didn't have identification. And I believe this would have been written back before 9/11, but they wouldn't let him fly unless he showed ID. Well, he flexed and he turned her into a Pepsi machine. So when you're reading the story, he was constantly being followed around and pecked at by an eagle with an iron beak or a hawk with an iron beak, and he was always dragging this Pepsi machine around with him because he needed to keep him safe and keep him with him until he could get him turned back. You know, again, that's an indication of Douglas Adams' sense of humor. It was really, really good, and but he did that. He would constantly rewrite it. Like if you go and read the book Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, you go and listen to the BBC radio broadcast, which is probably online. You might be able to find it on YouTube. I don't know if it's a bootleg or not, but you might be able to find it for free on YouTube or elsewhere online. And the TV show, and like I said, check Roku. There's somebody had it, and I don't remember who. But every one of them they just tweaked it a little bit, so it seemed like it really didn't want you to have to listen or view the same story over and over again. And I'm like, if it's something like that, but I go, if you basically write Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency and call it Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and you make the main character fucking Douglas Adams or Arthur Dent, instead of Dirk Gently, you make it, Arthur Dent running the Holistic Agency, and he's being assisted by Ford Prefect from out of town. I go, I think a lot of people are going to be pissed at you, because that was the thing. He was going to center this one based around John Sheridan, an Earth Force pilot or an Earth Force officer who wakens a 1,000-year-old alien from slumber on a planet or something like that. And I'm thinking, because in a case like that, and again, I might be wrong. Maybe it was going to fit in. He was just going to take a different approach to it. But like Babylon 5 was called Babylon 5 because it circled around the space station called Babylon 5. It was basically the Earth's UN in space. And if you're not going to be centered on that, if you're going to be basically going around on a spaceship as John Sheridan, of the Agamemnon or whatever they were going to call it, it's like, I think you're going to lose people with that. You really should just kind of, don't even give them the same names. Just basically call it a different show and do all this shit. And God knows, he can make a good show. Oh, hang on. Come on. Oh my goodness. Yeah, come here. I gotta get my foot over the edge. Yeah. But yeah, but I really don't know, and again, some of it is not his fault, but maybe they got wind of what he was doing, maybe, because the thing is, a lot of these people at the studio, they probably didn't know. If he pitched him an idea for Babylon 5, and they could probably tell him that story, and they'd be like, oh yeah, Babylon 5, because a lot of people just fuck if they know, And if they started getting feedback and they started realizing that, he's not really going to be making Babylon 5, he's making a brand new show and he's just going to use some of the names that were in the original cast. And he's just going to, make a show with that name, but it really, maybe they put a stop to it, but a lot of it sounds like they were going like, first they were bought, then they weren't, because originally it was supposed to go to, God, I can't remember the show. It might have been CW, but there was a show that bought the rights to air the show, and I think HBO bought them. I think HBO or Max or whatever it is. I think they bought or merged Warner Brothers, who owns the rights to it. And the way they were talking at one point, again, I don't know if any of this is true, but somebody was talking that because HBO wanted it. They want to make it. They want it on their network. They don't want to air it after the fact. Sounds like they want to put it on there. And the way somebody was talking, the only way they can do that is if the network that bought the rights to it agrees to it or sells them, So it might be this thing where they're just going to put it on the shelf until the other network, doesn't want it anymore. I don't know. To me, that's kind of sleazy. Let them, if they're going to make it and they're going to make it good, let them make it and just put it on your network like everything else. If you go on Max, I'm a little fortunate now. I can go on the app and watch stuff on it on occasion when I get approved. If you go on there, they got a ton of stuff. They got like Big Bang Theory, Chuck, and movies and TV shows. Oh goodness, oh my. They got West Wing on there. You can go on there and watch old episodes of West Wing. After they did that, there was all this stuff, I think, on Discovery Plus that I used to hear about. That's all in there now. So I can go watch Conjuring Kesha. There's UFO shows on there that never used to be on there that I can't really go on. I'm not right now, but when I get access to it again, they had some really good stuff on there. And so I don't know. It just, but yeah, it sounds like that's been kind of postponed for now. Okay, I apologize. And I didn't feel like playing Diablo because, like yesterday, I actually felt better yesterday than I did today, and I almost lost my. That's kind of why I'm on peaceful now too. But I almost lost my hardcore character on Diablo, and today I'm not feeling as good, and but I did. When I reached out to the governor, I told him about that stuff, and but yeah, the stuff that has come out on that Mars, especially when they, because again, I don't know if they were. I don't know. I don't think they were claiming to have original footage, but they showed footage of what Mars should really look like if it was being shown fairly. But I mentioned to him, I go, look, I don't know if any of this is true. Some of it I know is factual, like the fact that when astronauts are getting off of Earth's gravity, that I'm pretty sure they've proven that. They have proven that they actually have a Martian clock. When they're no longer tethered to Earth by gravity, they don't have the Earth biological clock anymore. It moves to a Martian clock. And I go, there's other physical things, but again, it's a tweet. You can only do so much. But I go, it's a weird thing. I go, it's absolutely a weird thing. And I go, you guys should really get to the bottom of it. But that was the thing when I watched these a couple days ago. I know I talked about this on a stream, but like the thing where Ross Coulthart was talking to that guy from the Need to Know podcast, and I don't know if I think he just works with whoever, but he I know he's worked with Australia's 60 Minutes, or I think it's 60 Minutes. I don't think it's 2020, but he's worked with them. So I mean, they found him credible enough to attach their name to it, and oh, what the hell did I do here? But I'll put these in there. I can't remember what I was gonna say. I'm starting to fade. This sometimes hits me when the way the nurse practitioner talked when you start working with your foot, because I noticed that doing this shit sometimes hits me more than walking around on it. And she goes, well, you're getting, when you're stretching it out, when you're moving it around, she goes, you're getting blood to flow, and that's why it's doing this. Hang on, let's go get. But yeah, Ross Coulthart, if I can remember what I was gonna say. Um, but oh yeah, that's what it was. He was sitting there talking about, like, somebody was telling him, well, you got to do this and you got to do that, and he goes, well, he goes, when it comes to this disclosure, he goes, the thing you got to understand is in the he goes, my understanding in the U.S. legislature, which would be the House and Senate, he goes, there is bipartisan support for informing Congress of everything that's going on. He goes, there is not bipartisan support for informing the public everything that's going on. And I don't really know, but I would suspect that you've got people on both sides of the aisle that he's talking about. I don't think that's an issue where it's one party or the other. Like, when it comes to helping out working people or poor people, yes, that's a one party issue. There's literally nobody on one side that wants to do anything to help out poor people. When you are talking about tax cuts for millionaires that don't need them, yes, that's a one party issue. There's basically one party that, they fuck the poor, will give the rich people their tax cuts. Um, and like right now, for all the bullshit. Now there might be different when you were talking about the supporters, but when I'm talking about the people that are mostly in charge of the party. There's one party right now that wants to defund like law enforcement because there's a former president who looks like he's going to go to jail for stealing classified documents, and they want to protect him. Where the other one, they don't want to defund the police. They don't. Now some of their supporters might, and there might be a few people that are coming in that want to, but it does look like they kind of pull them off to the side before too long and start to educate them a little bit because there was and she was brand new, but I think she was either military or she was former intelligence before she came into Congress, and it kind of leaked. But she was letting people know. She's like, hey, look, all you new people like me that are coming in saying we got to defund the police. And she told them, she goes, we got to knock that shit off or we are going to be fucked up. She goes, if we're going around with this, if we're going around with this defund the police, she goes, next election, we're going to get tore up. She goes, we're not going to survive. We're just not going to survive. Can't do it. And I think she kind of helped some of them out because she was brand new. And this is the thing, the people on the far left, I'm sorry, and I tend to agree with them on some stuff, but the thing they don't understand is when they basically come in and start saying, "Oh, well, we got to defund the police." They sound absolutely as fucking crazy as the Republicans do when they want to defund like schools or they want to defund checking for nukes at the border or checking for radiated stuff at the border. Basically our security at the border. Sounds just at Patches, you gotta be a good girl, okay? I might end this stream. She wants to. Basically, what it is, she wants her supper, and I don't even know what time it is. We don't have a clock. She's like 2.5 hours early for supper, and I'm starting to stutter. I've been off topic for a couple hours now. What I wanted to talk about. And since I'm not going to feed her, she's going to annoy me. And she's going to be demanding. So I'm going to probably end the stream. I'll put on something to watch. And then if she wants to hold hands with me, if she leaves now, I'll be able to stay. But I'm going to pretty much end the stream. Because what she's going to do is she did this once before, she wants to hold hands. So peace out. I hope everybody has a good day. I think I got like an hour stream, maybe a 2-hour stream, and I'm starting to fade now. Peace out, and I hope everybody has a good day.